Welcome into the Weather Wednesday podcast here at New England Storm Center. So, for New England, the big weather headlines for this week, at least for the start of this week, is the critical fire weather that has been occurring. Red flag warnings were in effect for basically all of southern New England on Tuesday. The critical fire weather expanded northward into northern New England for today. It's already been a rough brush fire season for New England already. Brush fire season, of course, is the springtime. There have been many brush fires across the region already. Some recent brush fires that have broken out in Massachusetts include Lynn, which was a pretty large one that threatened a handful of homes, got within 20 feet of homes this past Friday, and that one has been burning for about a week now. Some others in Massachusetts recently have been Framingham, Attleboro, Lowell, and Saugus have all seen decent-sized brush fires break out over the past week, and this is just the most recent spat of brush fires. There's been a few waves that have happened earlier this spring as well. New Hampshire saw 3 brush fires this past weekend in Nashua in Mine Falls Park. Wildfires also broke out in Maine this past week in Winter Harbor, Raymond, and Libsyn. And Libsyn saw multiple fires like Nashua. So, and like I said, this is just the latest spat, the latest wave of critical fire weather for New England. Last month, Exeter, Rhode Island saw one of the state's largest wildfires since 1942 that broke out in the middle of April during that big warm-up that we had in the middle of April. It felt like the middle of July. That fire forced evacuations. And again, that was the largest in Rhode Island in decades that occurred earlier this spring. Some good news about that fire is that forest is already showing signs of recovery and life just a month after that massive fire. Massive by New England standards. And like I said, spring is brush fire season in New England, as all the snow melts away and reveals piles of dead brush and sticks from the past winter. So when all the snow melts away, and then all of that kindling dries out, that is when New England is most susceptible for these brush fires. And you throw in low humidity and windy conditions, and you have a recipe for brush fires breaking out across the region. And like I said, it's been a very busy season thus far. So hopefully things settle down on that front soon. Here, mid-May, wildfire season typically March through May in New England. So hopefully that starts dying down, as of course the summertime humidity starts building up. Having a higher humidity does help limit the spread of brush fires. So there was a very interesting announcement by the National Hurricane Center last Thursday, right after Weather Wednesday, that the first cyclone of the 2023 season formed back in mid-January on January 15th, south of New England, off of New England's south coast. This storm stayed well offshore of New England, but it did bring some impacts to New England on January 16th. The storm brought some pretty gusty winds and dropped several inches of snow to parts of the region. So this storm was not given a name. The wind speeds were not given in this update. They said that would be coming in a future update. That will be interesting to see what the central winds were with this storm. So it was not given a name. It did remain subtropical. But because of this, the National Hurricane Center did state that the next tropical depression to form will be TD2, since this one would have been TD1. So that was some interesting and kind of unexpected little press release there from the National Hurricane Center last Thursday. So I ended up going down a bit of a weather rabbit hole the other day, as I tend to do, really. I was looking to make a short about the Lubbock, Texas tornado from 1970. Yes, we are having more tornado talk this week. I know we spent a majority of last episode talking about tornadoes and landspouts, and we're going to do the same this week. So I was uploading this short for May 11th, and this Lubbock, Texas tornado struck on May 11th, so it seemed like a good fit. But this video, this little documentary about the Lubbock tornado, is not the short I ended up making. Well, it was not the focus of the video anyway. As I was doing research on that tornado, I found something very intriguing. I found out this was one of only 2 tornadoes to achieve an elusive F6 rating on the Fujita scale. This tornado's damage was surveyed by Ted Fujita himself. I never read Fujita's initial Fujita scale proposal before, but with this rating, I decided to do so, to jump in and read through that. So I read through his research project, which was published in February of 1971. So along with a lot of math in that report, Fujita also describes the scale that bears his name. He describes the intensities like this. F0 is light damage, winds 40 to 72 miles per hour. F1, moderate damage, winds 73 to 112. F2, considerable damage, winds 113 to 157. F3, severe damage, winds 158 to 206. F4, devastating damage, winds 207 to 260. F5, incredible damage, winds 216 to 318 miles per hour. F6 to 12, inconceivable damage, winds 319 to sonic speed. Yes, the Fujita scale actually went up to F12. F6 to 12 are seen to be impossible, but I guess they were included to cover all the bases. F12 wind speeds were categorized as 738 to 818 miles per hour. The speed of sound varies based on temperature, but a general idea of this speed is 750 miles per hour. So we're talking tornadoes around the speed of sound for F12s. Naturally, a tornado will never ever come close to achieving this speed. So let's go back to F6. As I said, 2 tornadoes were given this rating at one time. The first was the Lubbock tornado in 1970. This was actually the first multi-vortex tornado ever recorded. It killed 26 people and completely decimated some homes. The only other tornado to achieve F6 was the Xenia, Ohio tornado from the 1974 super outbreak. This was the strongest tornado of the super outbreak. It killed 36 people and, like Lubbock, completely destroyed a large section of the city. Both of these tornadoes were later downgraded to F5. A tornado's F rating is determined by the damage the tornado inflicts. This is why F6 to 12 are really considered inconceivable. F5 causes total destruction, so it wouldn't be possible to determine if a tornado was stronger than F5. Whether a tornado has wind speeds of 300 miles per hour, F5, or 600 miles per hour, which would be F10 on the original scale, it would destroy everything in its path. F6 wind speeds start at 319 miles per hour. The closest we've ever come that's been confirmed to this speed was during the Bridge Creek Moore tornado in 1999. This tornado had winds recorded at about 301 miles per hour. This is the highest wind speed ever recorded on planet Earth. This was recorded by a Dow radar on the ground during the tornado. However, there was a separate radar reading of 320 miles per hour. 320 would just squeeze into that F6 rating. This rating was determined to be likely inaccurate, so the tornado would be ruled in F5 with the 300 miles per hour being the official wind speed determination. Of course, the U.S. switched to the enhanced Fujita scale in 2007. This scale only goes up to EF5, with that rating being winds of 200 miles per hour or greater. So, on to the resort roundup. Yes, we are still going with the resort roundup. And the Superstar Glacier is really starting to show signs of some serious thinning on the latest webcam check that I did on Monday. I'm not as confident as I was last week that they will be able to push into June. They have stated, and they put on their website, the hours for Memorial Day, so they are going to be open through Memorial Day. again, the million-dollar question is, would they be able to push for one more weekend beyond Memorial Day? And based on what I saw on the webcam, that is looking much less likely than it did just a week ago. That snow is starting to melt pretty fast out there. But we will have to wait and see. So that is going to do it for this episode of the Weather Wednesday podcast here at New England Storm Center. So with all that said, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Keep it right here. Keep it at newenglandstormcenter.com, and you will hear from me again next Wednesday.